Greetings and salutations one and all. Welcome to the end of another night shift week. Tonight we do a thing we call Real Talk Wednesday. How you doing? Real Talk is also known as Marlon's favorite night shift show. It's where we close out the week and we address things that affect how we interact with each other. We just talk about the things that cause us to interact with each other and how we do it. I want to say big up to each and everyone locked in on TuneIn Radio on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew on NIE Radio on PEMGTV.com and affiliates.
Love girl in the place where the thing in my waist and I'm not gonna waste no time. Girl, you always wanna waste with your pretty little face and you're always there on my mind. Yo, girl, back it up and turn up the place, cause you know just what I like. Girl, me just play happy day, cause girl want me play and you know just what I like. That's what me like, oh you. Girl, I woulda do anything just for that. That's what me like, oh you. The way your body move, you got me physical attraction. That's what me like, oh you. Back it up, girl, make me dream about that. That's what me like, oh you. Girl, it's too fast, I make me can't speak a crash. Tick tock, don't stop. You wind up, push back. Heat up so hot. That's why me like you. Your hips goes right up. Your belly flat, you line up. Girl got me tied up. I really got the taste of my life for you. Girl, I woulda do anything just for that. That's why me life for you. The way your body move, you got me physical attraction. That's why me life for you. Back it up, girl, make me dream about that. That's why me life for you. Girl, it's too fast, I make me can't speak across. Ready for you, ready, girl. It's time to accept me, girl. And no other girl in the world. Make me like them, like me like you. Gross wine up me into that. Tight skirt up into that. Put my hands all over that. Make me like them, like me like that's you. That's what I like for you. Girl, I woulda do anything just for that. That's what me like for you. The way your body move, you got me physical attraction. That's what me like for you. Back it up, girl, make me dream about that. That's what I like for you. Girl, you're too fast, I make me can't speak a girl. Girl, tick-tock, shake up your body like you're in a shop. Girl, wind back, wind your body for me, make your waist stop. Girl, tick-tock, so roll it to the floor and then jump. Girl, lift back, that's what me like for you. That's what I like for you. When you wind up the skirt and you move it in, that's what I like for you.
The sound of Triton.
That's what I like for you. Back it up, girl, make me dream about. That's what I like. That's what I like.
Yeah, man, that's what I like.
That's what I like for you. Girl, I woulda do anything just for that. That's what I like for you. The way your body move, you got me physical attraction. That's what I like for you.
Triton kicked us off tonight. Triton. Did I say Triton? Triton. Did I ever say it right? The track is called That's What I Like. I want to say welcome to those on Facebook Live. Inviting you to call a friend, tell a friend. Call an enemy. Friends of your friends. Friends of your enemies. Enemies of your friends. Call everybody.
Get up, girl, make me dream about. That's what I like. That's what I like. Too fast, I make me can't speak. That's what I like for you. Girl, I woulda do anything just for that.
I want to say thanks to Pulse Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the broadcast.
That's what I like for you.
The Pulse Media Group is who you call when being in the moment is priceless. They provide innovative streaming and recording solutions.
That's what me like for you. That's what I like for you. When you wind up your skirt and you move it, that's what I like for you.
So whether you have a seminar, a funeral, a wedding, a church service, graduation, party, Anything you're doing that you want to stream on a secure platform, give them a call, 754-999-6020. Or check them out at paulcmg.com. The zone of Triton. That's what I like about you. It's called That's What I Like. That's what I like. What do you like? So I want to. I think I should read this description that I put on today's post for you, and I'm gonna read it at the beginning, and I'm gonna go around and read it again at the end, because with starting off, I'm pretty sure you're gonna look at it one way, and then come towards the end, you'll probably look at it another. So tonight, for those of you just joining in, welcome. You haven't missed anything yet. We're talking about rape fantasies. So let me go ahead and set this stage. Imagine being restrained, your clothes ripped from your body, and you are forced upon by someone consumed with sexual or consumed by sexual desire. What do you do? How do you feel? That's maybe I should read it in a scary way, because that might have sounded a little bit sexy just now. So imagine being restrained, your clothes ripped from your body, and you're forced upon by someone that is consumed by sexual desire. Now that sounds a little bit more scary, doesn't it? Why would somebody want that? You ever wondered, why? That sounds kind of crazy. Well, let me read it again in another way. Imagine being restrained, your clothes ripped from your body, and you're forced upon by someone consumed by sexual desire. It doesn't sound as traumatizing though, does it? Have you ever fantasized about being forced to have sex? And if you have, you are not alone. Fantasies about being taken against one's will, sometimes known as forced sex fantasies or rape fantasies or even ravishment fantasies. These are actually quite common. And just today I was telling someone what I was talking about tonight, and they were like, why would somebody want to do that? And it was a very short discussion, and by the time I was done, it was like, well, I guess people, like what they like. So Dr. Justin Lemiller. No, that's not his name. His name is Lemiller. Lehmiller. Justin Lemiller. He wrote the book, The Myth of Sex. He also wrote a book, Tell Me What You Want, which is based on a survey of more than 4,000 American sex fantasies. Now, among the many things he said he asked about were fantasies about being forced to have sex. Previous research has found that these fantasies are common among women. However, he found that they're actually quite common among people of all genders. Right. So I'm pretty sure you initially thought, oh, it's just these women that are having these thoughts. Hold up. Pump your brakes just a second. Because you might be surprised. And for those with young ones listening to this broadcast, this is where you apply your guidance. I'm not talking about anything that they can't hear. But I'm talking about things that they should be guided about. Not guarded necessarily, but guided. So here are some numbers. 61% of self-identified women had fantasized about this before, while 24% said they had fantasized about it often. So 61 said, yeah, I've fantasized about it. And then 24 said, hey, 24% out of the 4,000 said, hey, I actually fantasize about that quite often. Then you have 54% of self-identified men that had fantasized about it before, while 11.5% said they fantasized about it quite often. Then you had 68% of non-binary participants that had fantasized about it before, while 31% said they fantasized about it often. So, regardless of gender, most people appear to have had a forced sex fantasy before. However, these fantasies appear to be more common among those who identify as women or as non-binary. And these individuals tend to have forced sex fantasies far more often than men do. Why? I guess because there's a stigma attached to men being taken advantage of. Like if you're a real man, you're supposed to control the thing. You control everywhere. So nobody is supposed to be able to control you and manipulate you, but do something wrong and end up in prison. And I bet you, I bet you at some point in time, you're gonna call somebody daddy. Right? But back to the matter at hand. And for those of you who want to communicate with me directly, 773-789-STEW gets you in touch. 773-789-7839. You can call, you can text, you can WhatsApp, you can Telegram me. Reach out. Of course, there's a chat room that's available. Use the link that's in the description, PEMGTV.com. You see that on that link. It's the same place that KevinStew.com will take you right now as KevinStew.com is being fixed. So, but I do encourage you to call. It's a judgment-free zone. So you can call, you can text, you can jump into the chat room and comment. Those of you on Facebook Live, feel free to comment there. Hey, Joy, how you doing? I'm well. So we're talking about rape fantasies tonight. So it is important to note that in the way people tended to describe these fantasies, they made it clear that it was actually consensual. Saying things such as, I secretly want it. Thus, it is not the case that these folks are actually fantasizing about sexual assault. Instead, they're picturing a scenario that unfolds on their own terms, which means the sex really isn't forced. So, whereas, yeah, they're fantasizing about it being forced, it's not. So, where do these fantasies come from? And what's the deeper psychological meaning behind them? Is there a deeper psychological meaning? Is there a way to pinpoint where they're coming from? Dr. Lemilla said he found that a number of personality and other factors were correlated with having frequent forced sex fantasies. And we're going to take a quick look at some of the patterns that emerged. So there are people who with their that have overactive imaginations, and those who reported fantasizing the most when were more likely to fantasize about forced sex, which tells us that for some people, these fantasies may be nothing more than the product of a wandering mind. These folk tend to have a wider range of fantasy content simply because they have active imaginations. So it's not that they necessarily want it to happen. It's just that they have active imaginations. People with an unrestricted sociosexual orientation had more forced sex fantasies. So these fantasies are more common among those who see sex and emotions as separable. These fantasies may sometimes stem from an ability to distinguish physical sex acts from love and other emotions. So they don't connect the two. One is just an activity that you do whenever, wherever, with whomever, and the other one is something that you do with someone special. People with another set is people with sensation-seeking personalities, and these had more. These people had a lot more of those fantasies. These forced sex fantasies seem to have more appeal to persons who have a heightened need for sexual excitement and thrills. So those are your sensation-seeking personalities. Those are the ones that would probably end up going bungee jumping with only the cord on one leg or something, Then you have persons with a history of sexual victimization. These were also more likely to report forced sex fantasies. This finding was somewhat surprising because it is contradictory to previous research, which found no link between sexual history and forced sex fantasies. However, most studies finding no linkage were based on small college student samples, whereas Dr. Lemilla's sample was larger and more diverse. It had an age range from 18 to 87. So, sampling differences may partly explain the discrepancy. Now, with that said, it is important to note that this association was small, which means that not everyone who has a history of sexual victimization has forced sex fantasies, and that not everyone with these fantasies has a history of victimization. Now, with that said, what Dr. Lemilla suspects is happening is that forced sex fantasies may be a way that some people with a history of victimization try to take control of a previous experience over which they had no control. Because in these fantasies, it is the fantasizer who is in control. And, well, that simply just makes sense. But it doesn't end there. Then you have the persons who had lower self-esteem and more attachment anxiety. That is, they had a fear of abandonment. These people were more likely to report forced sex fantasies. And again, the correlation was small. But this suggests that for some people, fantasies about forced sex may stem from a place of low self-worth or feelings of relationship insecurity. I'm wondering if those with low self-esteem issues would see that as the person who they're fantasizing about is finding them irresistible to the point where they cannot control themselves around them. I wonder. again, it doesn't end there. Okay, I got you, Joy. I got you. And I understand if you don't. Then there are persons with forced sex fantasies that were highly likely to report having BDSM fantasies more generally. So in many cases, forced sex fantasies may signify nothing more than a broader interest in BDSM activities. So basically, these fantasies have a rich psychology behind them, and people may have these fantasies for wildly different reasons. In many cases, these fantasies don't have a deeper meaning beyond someone just having an active imagination, a desire for sexual thrills, or a penchant for domination and submission. But in other cases, they may have their roots in coping with trauma. Of course, there are other explanations for why forced sex fantasies are so common that extend well beyond personality. They extend beyond attachment style and sexual history. For example, some have proposed explanations rooted in evolutionary psychology, as well as in socio-cultural factors such as avoidance of sexual blame for sexual double standards. Sexual fantasies are perhaps best viewed through a biopsychosocial lens, in which there's a blend of biological, evolutionary, psychological, and socio-cultural factors that contribute. So you have a whole melting pot blended up of these various human things. Your biological aspect, your evolutionary aspect, your psychological aspect, your socio-cultural aspect, all of these things playing up that play a role in an individual becoming an individual. So is there possibly a flip side to it? Is there a side that says people imagine themselves forcing intimacy, forcing sex onto others? Is there that side too? And I guess it's a legitimate question to ask. But when you and I probably should have started off with a disclaimer that not everybody will be able to probably handle this topic for tonight, and that's okay. But it's a real thing. I came across this as I was doing some research on another topic, and I found that it was quite telling. You know, it jumped out at me. And I've had a couple of discussions since about it, and I really felt the need to present this information tonight, because again, we never really know what an individual is A, dealing with, or B, wanting to experience. Sometimes we meet people along the way and we don't know why they behave a certain way. We don't know why that guy that you met in the bar that looks really cute and quiet is now wanting to tie you up. You don't know why that girl that you met in the club is now wanting to handcuff you. You know, these are some real fantasies and fetishes that individuals have. And sometimes they fantasize about it being aggressive. They fantasize about it being non-consensual. Does that make it wrong? Or is it that we really need to understand what is going on? So, is it that only women have these fantasies? Well, no. And we have come to realize that already. When we look at the statistics, that Dr. Justin Lemiller had presented to us. 54% of self-identified men had fantasized about this before. 54% out of his survey of 4,000 Americans. And 11.5 of those men said they fantasized about it often. So they fantasized about, quote, on being victimized, so to speak. But not really. Because these fantasies is not to say that they're defenseless and they're abused and violated, but they are the ones in control of their fantasies. They're in control of what is happening. So if they happen to live out any of these fantasies, it would have been a controlled environment that is controlled by them, really. They're the real puppet masters. And of course, you have some that just have overactive imaginations, and that's all. They just imagine it, and that's about it, where they will leave it. They're not taking it any further. Then you have those that have experienced something quite similar, and that has become their go-to fantasy. It's quite similar to someone being kidnapped, and by the time they're rescued, they don't want anything to happen to their kidnapper because they have fallen in love. Stockholm syndrome. These things are real. So don't think that this particular broadcast is just all about sex and freaky sex and anything. No. Not like that. You now need to understand, Joy. Apparently, you have a lot of questions like me. You now need to understand how people have this type of fantasy, and well, in short, that's how they do it. You know, they've had certain experiences, and that is all that they have to go on. These experiences. And what we have come to realize also is that it's not just men that do it. But that's not the only side to it. There's the other side to it. So before we get to the side of the individual that fantasizes about doing or having forceful or non-consensual sex with someone else versus someone who is on the receiving end, we'll look at why women have or one of the theories, or some of the theories why women have rape fantasies. And we're going to do that as soon as we come from the break. So call a friend, tell a friend. It's a night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, Real Talk Wednesday. And we're having some real discussion here. 773-789-STEW gets you in touch. You can call, you can text, you can WhatsApp. You can jump into the chat room on kevinstew.com. It takes you straight to the PEMG TV website where there's a chat room there also. You can comment. There's a judgment-free zone. You can remain anonymous or you can put in a name. feel free. Again, still a judgment-free zone. We are here to have, and this is where we have acceptance through enlightenment, and we're here to grow. My job, once again, stimulate your appetite, not satisfy your hunger. So if you have more questions when I'm done, my job is done. All right? I did my job well. We'll be right back. Facebook Live, deuces to you. Y'all take care. Did I miss any comments over there before I jump off? There's also S&M. So you don't have to fantasize about forced sex. Yeah. and that was one of the things that came up in the survey. You know, there are people that BDSM is their go-to. Bondage, dominance, bondage, dominatrix, and sadomasochism. So that is their go-to, and in dominant submissive relationships, that is kind of what you find happening. You have restraints being employed from at times, and you have someone who's the dom and someone who's a sub, and they have safe words that they used. Now, the roles may be interchangeable, but maybe I need to go in and explain that, go into more details of that in another broadcast. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Policy Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulse Media Group.
Imagine having our own Caribbean Center.
Imagine a museum highlighting our history and the contributions of Caribbean people to the world.
Imagine being able to visit and learn about the islands we call home.
In a place where our kids can see and feel their cultural heritage. You can make this vision come to life.
Help us create this first-of-its-kind space
that all Caribbean people can be proud of. Your contribution to Island Space Caribbean Museum will help this dream come true.
Visit islandspacefl.org/GoFundMe.
Visit islandspacefl.org/GoFundMe.
Visit islandspacefl.org/GoFundMe and donate today.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone-together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links. www.dahchurchlinx.com. Your links to worship and praise.
Hey, I'm representing for DJ Kevin Stew, working on the night shift radio show. Won't go changing like the weather, just to please the devil never. Will DJ Kevin Stew sell his soul? That's a word and honor. Listen to representing word and honor. Still I say DJ Kevin Stew.
I can tell that you love me by the way you're looking at me. Girl, the feeling is mutual, 'cause I love you the same way, and I love you so much. I don't care what people say, it's complicated, 'cause you got your man, girl. I just know that I want you, same way you want me. Baby girl, come over, wanna be your lover. Got some things to show you, got some things to show you. Wanna give you pleasure, searching for your treasure. I could be everything you want. I could be you. I could be you. I could be you. Tonight I will forgive you of everything you've done, yeah, in your past. Tonight I'll be your preacher, baby. You give me your undivided, and I'll relieve all your stress, baby, with my forgiveness, my forgiveness. I just wanna give you everything that you've been searching for, baby. All you gotta do, baby girl, come over, wanna be your lover. Got some things to show you, got some things to show you. Wanna give you pleasure, searching for your treasure. I could be you, everything you want. I could be you. I could be you. I could be you. I know how to treat you right. Just tell me yeah, I'll be all you want. Girl, just come on over, spend the night. It'll be the best, all you gotta do. Baby, just come over.
His name is Enzo.
Lover,
The track is called Come Over.
I can give you pleasure, I will be your savior.
And someone you can always call to come on over. I want to say thanks to Althea SU for sponsoring this segment of the
Come over,
night shift with DJ Kevin Stew.
be your lover. Got some things to
Althea SU is a licensed massage therapist that comes to you with her healing heavenly hands. She brings her table, her healing oils,
your treasure.
and she comes COVID free.
I could be you, everything.
Of course, she'd like to leave that way.
I could be you.
So, you know, if you have the virus, you may want to hold off on getting a massage as much as you may want one.
I'll forgive your everything. Baby girl, come
Althea operates out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade, and South Palm Beach counties. Give her a call, 954-655-9000,
things to show.
or email her at thealater@att.net.
Searching for your
I
treasure.
want to say congrats to Althea once again on achieving her personal trainer's certification. So if you're looking for a personal trainer, you might be out of town, out of state, and you can't get a massage,
Wanna be your love
but you can get some personal training.
to show you. Got
Yeah, man, call her out.
But I give you pleasure, searching for your treasure. I could be
When you call her, tell her DJ Kevin Stew told you to call. You wait. You soon see me looking all slim and trim and... Oh, I'm already slim and trim. You'll see me acting all fit and thing. Wait. And I'll be well relaxed because I got all my massages and everything. You know, I have it all planned out. I have it all planned out. You want to join me in the plan? Well, you know our number. 954? How our number go? 655-9000. You'd think that by now I would know it, right? The struggle. Joe, are you with me?
I am. I am. I can hardly hear you, but for some reason, I could hear you real clear a minute ago, but now you're kind of faded out.
Oh, so you were hearing me clear? No, I'm faded out. Let me see. You hearing me any better now?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, cool. We can work with that.
So I have more questions than there will be answers.
And
I'm trying to understand this. I'm trying to wrap my head around how an individual, male, female, whatever,
mm-hmm.
can have a fantasy about being stripped of their humanity, their dignity, their self-worth. This is the reality of rape. This is the reality that happens to individuals that have been through this.
Mm-hmm.
I speak from experience.
Right.
So I'm just trying to understand. Now, on the flip side of that, there are things that I have explored sexually,
mm-hmm.
not because of the rape, but because of
an overactive imagination.
No, I guess it would be more the need of control.
Ah.
Because I felt so helpless and had completely lost control of the situation.
Right.
I think it's more of a I have to be in control now. Now people would automatically say, "Oh, well, you're a dom." No, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I actually am a sub, and I'm going to tell you why. Because a submissive is the one that is always in control. No matter how the scene looks, no matter how the scene plays out,
mm-hmm.
that submissive is the one that always has the control, because all it takes is a word, all it takes is a sound, all it takes is a cat toy that you're holding in your hand and you drop it on the floor and the bell jingles. You know, that's all it takes for everything to just stop. And people kind of confuse that because they think, oh, well, the submissive is the one that's wanting to be controlled. To an extent, yes. But in the back of our mind, we know that we are the ones that always have that control.
Right. Which is...
We have the control.
Which is really different from someone that is the victim of a rape.
Exactly.
It's significantly different.
Exactly. That's why I'm trying to wrap my head around this, because I know what it's like to have all of that stripped away from you. And I know that you're saying that, oh, these are fantasies and it's consensual. But it's not. It really is just, it's like playing out a movie scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really, you're not really living out what you think you're living out.
Right.
It's a controlled environment. So I'm trying to understand, is it really the rape fantasy that they're wanting, or is it wanting to be dominated and controlled in that moment?
All right. So, by way of that survey of the 4,000 sex fantasies, some of the responses that Dr. Lemilla had gotten really pointed to individuals wanting to not lose control of the situation, but to, just like you said, be in it's like leading from the back.
Right.
They're the ones that have they're seemingly the damsels in distress, but they're not wanting of a hero to come riding in. They know that they're really not in any danger. They just want that dangerous experience. It's like people that do the escape rooms.
Bungee jumping?
Or bungee jumping. But the escape rooms, they're racing against time to get out of this room. But time is really the only thing that they're racing against, because there's no real danger to it. But the thought of running out of time creates this sense of excitement. So then they go in with this determination to escape, and it's just a matter of saying, you know what, I don't want to play anymore, and on comes the lights, doors go flying open, the exit sign comes on, and everybody walks out.
Right. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Right.
I get that, but
why would some?
Because,
yeah, go ahead.
I guess it's because I have experienced that reality,
Mm-hmm.
and I know what it does not only to your psyche, but what it does to you emotionally and physically, and so I understand that reality. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around fantasizing about it.
Here's the other side. Here's the flip side. The individual that has been the victim of such an assault, that it becomes one of their desires. They want to be handled in a similar fashion, but they don't want to be victimized.
But that's almost like saying that they enjoyed it. They enjoyed being victimized. And so now they want to take that victim part of it out of it and relive it, but without the victimization. Does that make sense?
Okay. So, it does make sense.
But am I understanding that correctly?
So, let's go back to BDSM then.
Okay.
The individual who is that sub that is strapped to the chair.
So there's let me pause you for a second.
Yeah.
There is BDSM, okay, which is bondage, dominance, sadomasochism. Okay, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I do. That's not what I am into. I am into the and excuse the expression for lack of a better term, but this is what it's called. You can look it up. You can Google it.
Mm-hmm.
It is called the slave master role play type scenarios.
Okay.
Where basically I am in control of everything, every aspect of my life all day long, from the moment I wake up and get ready and go into work where I am the boss, and then I come home and I am the boss. And so there's that one time in my day I don't want to be the boss.
Right.
So I relinquish that control. But here's the key to that.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have 100% trust in my partner in order to relinquish that control. If I don't trust you, I can't give it to you. Because I have to be able to trust that when I say that word, or when I make that noise, or when I drop that toy, and you hear that bell, you're going to stop whatever it is you're doing, because you have now gone past one of my hard limits.
Okay.
And that's the difference too. There are conversations that take place prior to that where you set those limits, you set those words, you make those rules, and if those rules are violated, then it stops. There is no more.
Right.
So there's that side of it, that is the side that I enjoy. I don't like the being restricted, confined. Blindfolded is one thing, but I don't do airplay. I don't do blood play. I don't do stuff like that, because that leads into a lot of danger that I don't want to explore.
Right.
And I know that there are people out there that do.
Yes.
But it's that. I guess maybe it's because of my past experience, because of what happened to me. I can't let myself go down that path, but I am willing to relinquish that control to a trusted partner.
Right. And so how I am seeing this, what I'm getting from it when I look at someone that fantasizes about non-consensual sex or rape fantasies, whichever way you want it, anybody wants to classify it. It is in their mental space having that being taken, that thrill. Because at the end of the day, how I see it is there's that fine line between that thrill and that danger, that trauma. A very fine line. And those that have experienced the trauma, like yourself, would know when you're approaching that line. And I'm suspecting that some of the individuals, male, female, those who identify as binary, anyone that is involved in it, a lot of it is from overactive imaginations, just like Dr. Lemiller had said in his findings. And
but wouldn't there be some type of fear? I mean, I know that, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to understand here on the other side of this is, wouldn't there be some kind of fear there that it would go too far, that it would take a nasty turn, where that fantasy is now you're scared because something during this fantasy that you're having with this individual has taken a turn, and there's something different that now you're feeling coming from the other person, and you want it to stop, and you say, okay, you know what, this has gone too far, I'm done, and that other person is like, yeah, okay, right, whatever, and remember we talked about this, you're supposed to say all of that, and I'm not supposed to stop.
Okay,
and so they continue on, and then it goes from that fantasy to that reality.
Right. So now you're talking. Now we're getting to the acting out or the acting on the fantasy. All right. So
Right.
I will delve down this rabbit hole with my limited knowledge and go off into theory land because that's what I have. I have theories. So in the same way that an individual could be concerned about it going too far and the safe word being ignored, when when we play with each other just on a regular basis,
Mhm.
you know, your parents probably told you, yeah, don't hit each other because it starts out as fun and then it's not all of a
Somebody
sudden.
ended up getting their eyes put out.
Yeah, so now that slapping match, that slapping game that y'all were giggling about now becomes that punching game that nobody is smiling.
Right.
So there's always a risk of going too far and someone not stopping when you say stop. Here it is. You said with your methods of dom play, when it has to be that you trust your partner a whole lot.
Yeah, but it has to be. Yeah, and I'm talking. The level of trust that I'm talking about here is, I can put my life in your hands, and I know that without any doubt in my mind, you will protect it outside of this room. So inside this room, I am able to give, that control to you, and relinquish any kind of say, unless one of my boundaries is crossed.
So,
or you've done something to hurt me, and don't get me wrong, there are times where it well, let's try this, and I'm all for it, but then I'm like, no, that hurts, so I will use. So we have 3 words. It's
do they do different things?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So there's a hard stop word. There is a, okay, this is going a bit too far word. And then there's a, I don't really like this, let's do something else word.
Gotcha.
So there are different levels. That's like when you sit down and you hash out, what are your hard stops? What are your I'll think about it. What are your, I think I'll give that a try. When you start going through that list and you start, picking and choosing what it is that you will do, you won't do, and those maybes, that in itself becomes a lot of fun because, now you start cracking jokes and saying stuff that is just outlandish, and you're like, what? Hang from the ceiling by your ankles and do what now? I mean, just, little things like that, that you'll throw out there, just in, tongue in cheek, just to get a laugh,
Right.
But when it all comes down to that bottom line where both of you signed, then these are the rules that we're going to follow. Those are the rules that you follow. And if you don't follow those rules, then that relationship is it no longer exists. But here's where I'm a little different. It doesn't just take that trust being broken. If you break my trust out in the real world, I'm done. There is no more playing around like that behind closed doors either. Because if I can't trust you in the real world, I can't trust you behind that closed door. And my husband found that out the hard way. But it is what it is.
Right. So here I have 2 comments. Sometimes you feel a sense of power when you face a thing that stripped you of your power. Even more so when you turn it into a fantasy. Some people are so traumatized that they actually get off on the trauma. It could manifest in being reckless and intentionally placing you in a dangerous situation all over again. For others, it's exactly that not knowing if a person will stop. That is where the thrill is. Not knowing for certain can make the fantasy more thrilling, and that can spill over into actually living it out.
See, that makes sense. That I understand where they're coming from with what they're saying. Because it gets very confusing to me. What happened to me when I was a teenager, I didn't tell anybody, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been in this past year that I finally opened up and told somebody. And it's been, over 20 years.
Right.
So closer to 30.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell... the only people that knew what happened that night was me, the man that did it, and the man that, quote unquote, saved me from the situation.
Mm.
And I say that very lightly because it wasn't until I became an adult and started talking to someone about it here recently that they brought to light that this person that saved me actually played on my vulnerabilities in that moment and tried to turn me into what they wanted because of what he did for me, because he was my knight in shining armor. When in reality he was just
opportunist,
a dipshit in tinfoil. I mean, I was very young, and because I was so young, I didn't know, I couldn't discern the difference. Now that I'm older and I'm looking at it through adult eyes as to what happened, I understand more about what happened and why it happened. But the reality is, I was so ashamed of what happened that I did not want to tell anyone. I blamed myself. I blamed myself for many, many years, that I brought it on myself.
Right.
If I would have just done this, if I should have done that, that those woulda, shoulda, couldas all came up. And my favorite saying, if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk, right?
Right.
So I had to look at it differently, that, and try to see it through different eyes. To say that I fantasize about having that type of control that was had with me, I don't desire it. I don't like the thought of it. I don't like the thought of being that way to someone. And I don't like the thought of ever having that ever happen to me again. So, but there's that big but again. I've been told that because of the way I am sexually, that is kind of the same thing, and I don't see it that way, but a lot of people do.
And again, here we go, a matter of perception.
Exactly.
There was a survey back in about 2015 where that said, there was a study, and they said rape fantasies are most prevalent among women who are the most erotically open and adventurous, who feel most comfortable daydreaming about sexual situations way beyond what they'd ever want to experience. So these individuals actually have the fantasy. They have no desire to live it out. But what we have here, as being commented in the chat and what you're presenting, is having some fantasy and living it and acting on that fantasy, putting reality to that fantasy. In your case, it is the way you do your sexual experiences with the slave and master. There are some that do it as and as having this discussion today. There are some that do the help fantasy. So it is the house cleaner, the housekeeper, the maid. It is some that have the fantasy of the doctor. Some have the fantasy of the teacher. Either way, there is, how I see it, is there's always someone who is in a perceived position of power or authority. And there's one that is the submissive.
And that's the thing, is being submissive, being submissive to the master, is much different than, saying, I want you to strip me of my self-worth, my dignity, my humanity. You know what I mean? To me, it's different, but there are people that don't see any difference in it. Because there are things that, and I know people, I have friends that live this lifestyle as a normal lifestyle in their home once they're home. When they're out in the real world, they're, very straight-laced. You would never even dream that these people are like this. To meet them on the street. But then when you go to their house and you see that there is a dog bed in the living room that's inside of a cage, and that's where, she sleeps, and that's where she eats, and she only uses the restroom when he says it's okay. There are people that actually live their everyday life like that. And they're comfortable with it. They're happy with it.
Right.
And I don't judge. So don't get me wrong. I don't judge. That's not my place. Your preferences are your preferences. All I care about is how you treat me as an individual outside of your home. You know what I mean? So it's like I understand that there are different levels of fantasy, and there are different levels of reality when it comes to this subject. I couldn't live my life every day like that. Because I'm like, yeah, I want you to pull my hair, slap my butt, and tell me what to do, but only if I'm naked. But also me, who the hell you think you're trying to tell what to do? So it's like that push and pull,
Right.
And it's like, I got clothes on. You can't tell me what to do. What's wrong with you?
Right. So
but
again, it comes back to how you communicate.
Right.
We haven't touched on this tonight yet, communication. But if anybody at all has listened to, especially an edition of Real Talk, communication is big.
Oh, yeah.
And even in my own experience, I have learned that I need to communicate more and I need to communicate better. One of the things that comes up when you look at rape fantasies is an individual that says, I don't want to give my body to you. I want you to take it. And that is where the excitement is. And in going about taking you, it involves, ripping your clothes off. So it's probably, you probably have a wardrobe just for that. Because you got these clothes just so that they can be ripped up.
Right. We went to Goodwill, we went shopping. We're good.
So it's kind of like that. So you're wearing the tear my clothes off outfit, and it might be an outfit that you can wear out. So you wear it to work, and you let your partner know. And I'm being very neutral with how I present this scenario, because it can be either the woman or the man that is having this rape fantasy. And a lot of people don't think that men have rape fantasies or men think about being dominated. But yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
And a lot of men, I could be wrong with this, but a lot of those men are men that in their everyday life, in real world situations, these are individuals that actually command a lot of respect. They're in positions of power. And they really, just like you said, you're the boss. You're the boss at home. You're the boss at work. There's a time when you don't want to be the boss.
But here's the thing. And here's how you can kind of see what roles are played if that was being played at home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know me well enough to know that I am definitely an alpha female.
Yes.
Especially in my home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where mine comes in, is because I need that moment of, you're now the alpha male, and I need you to be the alpha male.
Right.
And most of the men that you see that are the submissives are the ones that are looking at that rape fantasy. They are alpha males in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
They are that dominant, very commanding. They when they walk into a room, they don't have to say anything. All they have to do is appear, and their body language screams, "You need to give me your attention right now."
Right.
And it's those men that I find are the ones that prefer to be the submissive. Now, don't get me wrong, not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have met, other couples and stuff. And don't think that I go out and I do this in parties and stuff. No, this is something that I do privately in my home.
Right.
But I know people that live the lifestyle.
Right, right.
And because you have to learn from somewhere, right?
Yes.
You can't just, this isn't something that you just step into one day and say, oh, okay, this is what I want to do. You have to learn, and you have to learn the proper way, and you have to learn the proper etiquette for this type of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not something that I go off and I just talk to my friends about, and I sure as heck don't talk to my family about it because it's none of their business. But it is not something that I am ashamed of. It's just nobody's business.
Well, one of the things about our society is that there are some things that we just really don't discuss on a whole. And it's not that you can't. It's just that it's not something that you were either taught to do or something that people do on a regular.
Right. It's not something that didn't, okay. Who was it? Betty Wright. Do you remember Betty Wright?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Betty Wright was a Floridian. A South Floridian.
Huh?
Betty Wright was a South Floridian.
Okay, do you remember her song "No Pain, No Gain"?
Yes.
Okay, my favorite line in that song is when she's talking about you need to be a lady in the streets and you know what in the sheets.
Right.
And that's exactly how she says it.
Right.
She lets me know this is what you need to do to hold on to your relationship, but understand that through this relationship, if there is no pain, there will not be any gain.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've always reverted back to that song when I start to have doubts about the way I'm living my life. I have used that song as that's my empowerment. That's the song that gives me that woman power, I guess. A lot of women use that "I am woman" song, not me. I Betty Wright, "No Pain, No Gain." That's my go-to. And for your listeners out there, if you've never heard it, go listen to it. You'll love it. I promise.
I think most of my listeners know it.
Huh?
I think most of my listeners would know it, if not most, all. Or if not all,
Yeah.
most. Let me put it that way, yeah.
Well, you might have some young pups out there.
Well,
interested,
this is true. This is true. Comment
But
here.
no, I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. No, you first.
Okay, I was just saying there's a comment here that says rape fantasies can also include more subtle ways of forcing oneself onto another. It could be taking someone when they're sleeping and there isn't the violent component of fighting, just no consent.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Okay.
that's not really the same. I guess, I don't know. I guess it's because my brain keeps going back to the actual definition of rape.
Mm-hmm. That violent, forceful taking.
Yeah. The violent, traumatic experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so because it keeps going back to the actual definition, I think that's what makes it so hard for me to understand. Because in these these case studies and these polls that you're reading from, this isn't the actual definition that they are using. They're using the word, but they're not using the definition. Does that make sense?
Okay, so now remember there's an aspect of it where consent needs to be given for it to not be rape. In the scenario that was just presented here in the chat room with the individual sleeping and then being taken while they're asleep.
Yeah, but that happens to me all the time. My husband's crazy like that. But I don't.
But all right, but this was something that you turn to your husband and say, "Hey, listen, you know what? If I'm sleeping and you want to get some, you know how to get it. Don't wake me up for that. Just go ahead and get it."
Well, no, I mean, obviously he wakes me up, but
it wakes you up, but don't wake you up to get it.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying.
And so, if you want it, I'm not going to fight that.
Right. So, but because you didn't say, okay, let's do it before it happened, then it falls in the category of rape. Now, because it's your husband, it's kind of hard to argue rape with a husband. But if this was just someone that you were close with, just a friend,
right,
and you had a one bedroom, but you trusted them enough to let them sleep in your bed and everything. You're asleep. Y'all didn't talk about that. But then you are awakened by sexual things happening.
Right.
Now it may it feels good, but you didn't consent to it.
Yeah, but still, there's still that your roommate you're living in the same house. You trust the person enough to share a bed with them. They're not your sexual partner. You wake up in a sexual situation with them. But there had to have been, at some point, there had to have been some kind of a vibe given that let that individual know that it was okay. Because I'm going to tell you, if it's not okay with me, I just reach over onto my bedside table and the story's over. You know what I mean? But it's like you have to understand there's got to be something. It's kind of like I don't want to say telepathic communication,
Okay.
but in a sense it is. There's some kind of a communication there, whether it's body language or conversation or something that is given that individual the idea to believe that it is okay to do this.
There's that non-verbal consent.
Right.
But if there's no actual consent given, then it's rape.
Right. Well,
what makes it different? And I say this all the time. I say this all the time when it comes to harassment. It only becomes harassment when the person complains. So
right.
you could be telling you could be telling somebody that they're sexy all the time.
But it only becomes harassment when you don't like the person that's saying it or that's doing it.
Right.
Then it becomes harassment. If you like that individual and you have laughed and talked and whatever, I mean, let's stop and think about it. I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to get you in trouble with FCC and
right
taking a chance on getting sued or whatever. But I'm going to put it this way: there was a certain individual that was a news anchor, a very well-known news anchor, who would say sexually explicit things to his co-host.
Right.
Did it for 15 years, okay? Said very sexually explicit things to his co-host for 15 years, and she never said a word. Never said a single thing. And it was caught on hot mic, him saying things to her.
Okay.
Multiple times. So he couldn't deny it if she ever did step forward. But for 15 years, she never said a word. Then another individual came forward and said, whoa, I don't like that, and immediately blew the whistle and raised the flag, right?
Right.
Then all of a sudden, the one that he'd been doing this to for 15 years decided she's going to say something now. Now it's not okay because somebody else said it wasn't okay. Now it's not okay. Do you see the conflict there? I'm not saying, do not for 1 second think that I'm condoning the behavior at all.
Right.
My point is, if you were uncomfortable with it on the first day, you should have said something the first day. Don't wait 15 years for little miss that sits in the hallway to say something for you to jump on that bandwagon.
And
if you were comfortable with it from the very beginning, you should have said something from the very beginning. It would have nipped it in the bud, and there would have been no more discussion.
Right. And so now let's take that from something verbal, like this harassment scenario that we just presented, to the other scenario where here is sex happening and nobody said it's okay to do this.
Right.
And while it is happening, the parties involved are feeling good. So the guy who wasn't down for the act is enjoying it, which is probably why it is so hard to prove that a man is raped, because he has to be stimulated in order for that all that to happen. So if he is stimulated, then that could easily be argued that he is willing, hence consent.
Right.
But as
Do
a
you
man,
remember?
I know that we can have erections and we're not stimulated, and
Yes.
or we don't want to give it up, but yet still it feels good, so our bodies are going to react accordingly.
React, right.
So
Denzel Washington
Mhm.
did a movie some years ago, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the movie. But I want to say he was a police detective or something in this movie, and they have him tied to a chair in an empty swimming pool, and they're filming him because they're going to send this tape to his wife or whoever, put it on the media, something like that. And they've drugged him, and they've got a woman down there, and the comment, I remember the comment was something to the effect of, you may not want it, but your body says something different.
Okay.
And so I kind of understand where that's coming from, because even though you're in a situation that you're not comfortable in, you're not consenting to, your body thinks that it's okay.
Right.
And with men, it happens more frequently than women.
Right. But it does happen with women. So here you are, the sleeping woman, having something that your body is being stimulated. You didn't say that whomever it is doing it is allowed to do it, but they went ahead and did it anyway, and you are feeling good. It feels good. You've never experienced it the way that they're doing it, and it feels good. And you don't think you'll probably ever experience it again. So what do? You allow it to happen.
Right.
It started out non-consensual.
You didn't initially give the consent, but as it's happening, you relinquish.
Right.
And give that consent.
And that is a similar thing to the rape fantasy. Because sometimes you have the no, don't, stop. And that don't stop ends up being, no, don't stop.
Exactly. You know, it goes from no, don't stop to, oh no, don't stop. So yeah, I get it. I totally get that.
So,
and I can actually relate to that.
Busted.
Yeah, and my husband, if he was in here right now, he'd be laughing his head off, going, "Yeah, I've done that."
but you see,
no.
But here, but that comes back to what we're talking about with an individual having that fantasy where they're being taken. There's that no, don't, stop. But then, because it's a fantasy that they're both living out.
Right, but it's also creating that hormonal, that body and that mind stimulation that you know, you're supposed to be playing this role, but your body, mind, and hormones are going, we're not playing no more. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'm all in. We go big or go home. Let's do this.
Right.
You know, something. It's just, I guess it's just the fact that it all starts out as, this is my fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to willingly give this to you. If you want it, you're going to have to take it.
Right.
That right there, I think, is what I'm having a hard time with. Because, see, in the back, you're saying these words, but you know in the back of your mind, it's all BS.
Right. So what it is you're saying, yeah, I'm not giving this up. When at the same time you are, I don't know, by pulling the buttons on your blouse so that it shows that much, it exposes that much more cleavage.
Right.
And saying, I'm not giving this to you.
Yeah, but then that's
But
teasing.
it's not saying, oh hell no, you're not getting this. It's saying, I'm not giving this to you.
Right. If I'm saying, oh hell no, you're not getting this, it's because I come out in knee-high socks and a flannel nightgown, and I'm like, no, get off me, bro. This ain't happening.
Yeah, but you coming out in lingerie saying, I'm not giving this to you. Then you're wearing one of them tear up and throw out outfits.
But that's teasing. That's teasing. That's like, nah, you can't have this. See what I got? You can't have it. It's like shaking a bag of candy in front of a kid going, you want some of this and you can't have it. Ha ha.
Right.
You know?
So are you saying no, you can't have it, or are you saying come and get it?
Well, if I'm wearing lingerie and I'm out there telling my husband you can't have this, obviously I'm saying you can't have this unless you come get it.
Right.
So that's the completely different world.
Yeah, so that is how the fantasy plays out with some people. It's and this is my take on the information that I came across and looked up and did some reading and even speaking with a couple of people about it. It is that I am going to bed. You get to sleep over there, but the only thing I'm going to bed in is this T-shirt.
I've done that. I'm so mean. That was a long time ago, but I've done that. Yeah. But see, the thing is that individual I wanted.
Right.
But I didn't want to tell him I wanted him.
Exactly. So, in the very same way, these individuals, I equate that to these individuals that have this fantasy where they're saying, you know what, I want you to have me, but I don't want to give myself to you, so come and take me.
Yeah.
And you can go as far, I will allow you to go as far as this point. Now, you're not saying it verbally as you would do in a BDSM situation where you go, here are my safe words, this one does this one does that, this one does that.
Right.
But in your mind, you've already had your safe words and your safe activity, your safe action in place. And you trust that person just enough that if you were to say, stop, in that tone where you're scared, that they would stop and they would be of a comfort. Comment here in the chat, there can be playful fantasies and there can be dark and scary ones. Some folk go for the dark and scary.
Yeah.
And And that is how you end up having rape fantasies.
Well, when I was first learning about Dom sub scenario scene, and I was learning how to be a proper submissive. There was one individual that by the third lesson, I knew that he was not the one that I wanted to teach me anything else. Because it was always very dark. It was always it was on that cusp of violent. And I don't mean violent as in beating me up or anything like that, but I mean violent as in very rough and very raw and very aggressive. And it was not pleasurable. It just took me to a very dark place. And so I had ended that relationship very quickly. And I did explain to him exactly why and what the cause was.
Right.
And he understood, you know, and like he had said to me at that time, he said, you know, some people just, they're not ready or they cannot handle this much, they can't handle it being this intense.
Right.
And I had to agree, you know, I guess it still reverts back to the whole control. I have to be, even though I'm telling you that you are the one in control, I know in the back of my mind that's crap.
Yeah, you have to be in control of letting them know that they're in control.
Exactly.
I totally get it. I speak madness. I speak crazy. You know,
I'm very fluent in it. Ask my psychiatrist, he'll tell you. I'll have to remind him sometimes, hey, I'm the crazy one in this relationship, not you. But no, this was something that was very hard for me to even admit happened. And it wasn't until it was a year ago. It'll be a year next month, actually, when my job said, you can't come here and work unless you put a mask on. Right. And I tried. In the beginning, it was a compromise with them that I would hold the mask over my mouth and nose when I was walking through the building. Now, when we're in our cubicles, we don't have to wear the mask.
Right.
And so I compromised with them that, okay, if I have to wear this when walking through the building or sitting in a conference room, I am begging you to just allow me to hold it over my mouth and nose, because it reverts back to that control. I am in control of it.
Right.
It's not fastened to me. I am in control of it. Come to find out, the reason why I would hyperventilate and I passed out a couple of times trying to wear the mask is because I cannot have something touching my mouth and nose at the same time. I know that sounds weird, but that was the reality of it. I then found a mask that touches the top of the bridge of my nose and the bottom of my chin, but does not actually come in contact with my nose and mouth at the same time where it's covering it. So it's not touching. And I'm able to wear this. And people usually use this type of mask when they're doing workouts. It does have a carbon filter.
Right.
But, you know, I was one of those people that I wasn't wearing a mask. Now, I could not understand why the mask bothered me. I just knew it did. It's like I couldn't understand why men with beards bothered me. I just knew it did, because this memory I had shoved down so deep that I knew it happened, but I couldn't remember the details. Once the mask came into play, it triggered all of the, I mean, it was just like a flood. It just hit me all at once. And so the night terrors started, and I'm screaming in my sleep to the point where neighbors are calling the police because they think my husband is murdering me in the apartment. And
oh wow.
And, I'm being pulled out of my home at 11:30 at night to explain to them in my nightgown that, no, I'm sorry, I was just having a nightmare. I left my window open. That was my bad. I will shut my window. And they didn't believe me. They had to talk to my daughter to confirm my story.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, no, we don't wake her up. We learned the hard way. You don't wake her up when she's like that. But I do have a wonderful pit bull named Royal, who is trained to wake me up when these things start to happen. And so he comes in my room, and it's nothing like having a 65-pound pit bull pounce right on your chest. And when you open your eyes, you're nose to nose with this big old blockhead of a dog.
Right.
And then he'll lick your face, and he's like, yeah, you're okay. And he lays across me until my breathing becomes regular and my heart rate goes down. And then he gets up and he goes into the other room and minds his own business. And
he was trained to do this?
Yeah. He is a PTSD dog.
Yes.
And he is trained to wake you up when you are having night terrors. Now, the difference between a night terror and a nightmare is you cannot wake up from a night terror. You have to ride it out. It's like a wave. You have to ride it till it hits shore.
Wow.
No matter how hard you're trying to wake up, you're not. It's like you can't. A nightmare, you can wake yourself up from at some point. It could be at the very beginning, it could be in the middle, it could be at the end, but nevertheless, you can wake yourself up. But a night terror, no matter how hard you try, it's almost like it's an out-of-body experience, and you cannot wake yourself up. So Royal wakes me up, and he will sit outside my door if my door is closed all the way. He will sit outside my door and he'll start to cry. And my husband knows that I'm either getting ready to have a night terror or it's already started and Royal can hear. Royal can hear it before anyone else in the house can.
Wow.
And he will come and he wakes me up. He does his job. He's my baby, I mean, he actually did belong to my brother-in-law. Mm-hmm. My brother-in-law could not keep him, and he was actually trained for my brother-in-law's PTSD.
Oh, okay, got you.
So when this all started, he was like, hey, wait a minute, I know what that is, and I know what I'm supposed to do. And it's just like his instinct, or his training, I should say, just kind of kicked in and took over with me when this started happening. So the beards and the mask triggered the night terrors and the memory of what took place when I was 15 years old. I had just turned 15 years old. And everything just came back all at once. And trying to deal with this for the past year it's been challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It's been quite challenging from time to time. I have good days and bad days. I have days where I go to work on 45 minutes worth of sleep because I had gotten to the point where I was afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid to close my eyes because that face would come back and that the smells and just everything would just come flooding back to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess because of this, I could not have that type of fantasy or that type of desire.
Mm-hmm.
But I can have something, I do have something that kind of runs along a similar situation.
It does.
Only I am in control in that aspect where I wasn't in control when I was 15.
Right.
And I think that's what makes it pleasurable, I guess, for me, is to know that I have 100% control of what's going on, even though I don't
being dominated.
I don't dominate from the submissive. When the scene is being played out, I do not. I guess the way I could say it, where you would understand, is I don't top from the bottom.
Right.
I allow things to play out the way he wants them to play out, unless it becomes an uncomfortable situation for me.
Right.
Then I stop. Everything stops. And I think that's where I differ from other people that are more into the whole, because I do know of people that have been so into the rape fantasy that, and I've never been able to wrap my head around this. Never. Even before all of the memories came back, even before everything became very real again to me.
Right.
I never could really wrap my head around it. But I know women and a few men that have been so overwhelmed with this needing to play out this fantasy that they have gone to the extreme that they've needed to go to be able to do this. And I'm talking a stranger in a bar, somebody goes in, pays them, tells them who to look for, gets them to sign a consent form that, that they are not going to, it's basically an agreement saying we're not going to accuse you of any wrongdoing in this scenario or this case, but this is how I want, this is what I need you to do. And because she went in and she scouted the bar prior to her club, it actually is what it was, scouted the club and found the individual she wanted to do this to her.
Okay.
And so it does. There are some cases where they do go that extra step to get it as real as they can.
Right.
And I guess that's what worries me. Is because how far is too far?
Well, I think it boils down to just an individual and how they like their boat to float. That's
in shallow waters.
that's about all I can chuck it up to. It's whatever floats your boat. So
what was it that I said a few weeks ago? If possession is 9/10 of the law, does that make perception 9/10 of the understanding?
Right, I remember you said that. Yes.
But it plays true here as well.
Yes.
Because I guess it's how I perceive it, and how the individual that is craving this is perceiving it are two different perceptions.
Well, what I can say is, for that woman that identified that person that she wants to live out her fantasy, if it was someone that wasn't up for the task, she would have been SOL.
Oh, I know. Well, not only that, but I mean, that's why her I don't want to call him her husband because they're not married, but she's what is called, she's collared by him, and so it's almost the same as a marriage in that type of lifestyle.
Right.
So she is colored, and she belongs to him.
Right.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But whatever she wants, she gets. And this was what she wanted. And he tried, when we had talked about it, and I was like, well, I don't understand why, just why? And he explained to me that she had tried to have that type of fantasy, live out that type of fantasy with him, but it didn't satisfy the need that she had to satisfy the craving, because she knew him. She knew him. She knew, everything about him, and so she needed it to be a stranger.
Right.
And that really threw me for a loop. I'm still her friend, though. I still love her. She's still my friend. Whatever, to each their own,
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, whatever it takes for you, baby. That's the way I looked at it.
Hey.
But, it just kind of, it floored me. But I didn't let her know that I didn't understand. I didn't say ugly things to her, like, oh my God, how could you do that? Because it's not my business. Whatever she's doing does not affect me.
Right.
That's like, people, they see me, they know me as an individual, they know how my belief system is, they know how my mindset is, and then they say that that I don't like certain individuals, and I'm like, how can you say that? Well, because you believe this way. And I'm like, wait a minute. Just because I believe that way does not mean that I am going to say that person can't live their life the way they want to live, because how they're living their life does not affect me in the least.
Yeah, some people don't really get that. They tend to tie belief systems with certain actions when they just don't necessarily marry. They don't.
Well, that's like some people live together their entire lives, and they never walk down the aisle together, and share a name or anything like that, but they share the life.
And the moment they do walk down the aisle, that's it. It's over.
Exactly. It's like, if anything broke, don't fix it, bro.
Hey, Joy, I want to thank you for being able to come on and share of yourself once again, being so candid, making real talk exactly that, real talk.
Anytime. I'm here for you, bro.
Oh, yes.
Nothing but love.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Now, Royal, I'd like to meet. Trust and believe.
I will send you a picture of that lazy ragamuffin dog.
Please do.
I will.
All right.
Much love and respect to you and yours.
I thank you. And
God
likewise.
bless.
We'll talk.
Much love.
Good night.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, you see, that right there, that's real talk. And I do appreciate the fact that y'all, my listeners, can come in and share that way. Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much. As we close out this week,
You are the one, yeah.
I'll leave you with Ed Robinson working out with Dottie. Their rendition of Someone to Love. I want to thank you, each and every one, for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for participating. Truly appreciate, love you, each and every one of you. We'll do this all again starting next week. Monday, Community and Finance. Tuesday, Healthy Love. Wednesday, Real Talk once again. But before that, we have Saturday. The Saturday Stew on Reggae Global Radio.
It's because of you.
You get the DJ side of me in full effect.
You give me someone to love. Someone to love.
But until then, oh, on Saturday, it's 8 p.m. Eastern.
Someone to know. You give someone to love.
Until then, y'all remember to look out for members of your community. Your community is not just a development that you live in, but it spreads far and wide. So whether you walk, ride, or drive, those that you pass on the bus, on the plane, on the boat, or the train, these are all members of your community. Do something good for one of them today, because you never know who's going to do something good for you tomorrow. My name is DJ Kevin Stew. This is how I like to do it to you, for you, and with you every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 10 to midnight. Encouraging y'all to be good. If you can't be good at it. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world. From right here in South Florida, I bid you good night.
It's because of you I was able to fall in love again. You give me someone to love. Someone to love. Someone to hold. Someone to hold. Someone to know. You give someone to love. Someone to trust. Someone to hold. Someone to hold. Someone to know. For in my life, I wouldn't let love inside, but I swallow my pride the day you arrive. Oh, now with you by my side.
Oh, before I go, I need to say thank you to my segment sponsors, Reggae Global Entertainment.
Give my heart again.
Thank you. They provide booking agent services, tour management services, music production, marketing and promotion, and so much more. You can call them 954-998-8034 or check them out online, reggaeglobalentertainment.com. And a thank you to GMAT Music Solutions, bringing your events to life, providing sound, light, and stage production services, musical equipment, PA systems, audio engineers, DJs, bands, musicians, and singers. Call them up, 754-307-GMAC. That's 754-307-4622. You can also check them out online, gmatmusicsolutions.com. Thank you. Good night.
Someone to hold, someone to know. Someone to love. Yes, lady, you gave me someone to love.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.